Good evening, everyone. I tonight am presenting a developmental theory of occupational aspirations called Circumscription, Compromise, and Self-Creation. Here we have one of my favorite quotes. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. And this is by George Bernard Shaw. This quote really shows the difference in how people can view finding their true self and just the variances and how it plays out, and helps with the developmental theory of careers as well. Just like everything, there is an origin story. And this started with Linda Gottfredson, and she received a PhD in sociology in 1977. Now, I did say this is a developmental theory, but she learns to find some balance. So her research interest included employee selection, job analysis, and chronic diseases related to job performance. So then in 1981, she developed this theory of occupational aspirations, and it became a biosocial development. So not just the sociology aspect, but what humans are given from birth. And one of the main elements of her theory was the self-concept and how that is played out in career development. So in explaining this key concept of her theory, the self-concept, and which that is a view of oneself, and it includes various aspects, their appearance, abilities, personality, and various things. And she felt this was key because individuals want jobs that are compatible with their self-image. And some of the factors that determine vocations and relation to self-concept are their social class, level of intelligence, and experiences with sex typing. And what she stated was, in the dominant society that we have, social, economic, and intellectual level greatly influence individuals' self-concept. So now we move on to the elements of her theory, first being circumscription. And circumscription, just as a definition, is a restriction of something within limits. And the view is that as children age, they narrow down their vocational choices through stages. And the goal is to eliminate the negative rather than selecting the most positive. So here we have the 4 stages of development under circumscription. The first stage starts at age 3 because prior to that, children probably want to be animals or a wall or inanimate objects. But they start to get at age 3 to 5, they enter the stage of orientation to size and power. They start to look at their family members, mom and dad, their jobs, realize the parents have power, they're big, the children are small, so they start to idealize the careers that a family have. And the value judgments are jobs good. Then they enter into the next stage, which starts at age 6 and goes to age 8, and this is orientation to sex roles. And here your self-concept is influenced by gender development. Attitudes start to surface about things, and genetically they are experiencing who they are supposed to be, clothing or activities, according to Gottfredson. So here, maybe the garbage men, which was okay for everybody before, it's not necessarily appropriate because it's more of a masculine job for a girl, so therefore a girl would not want to have it. And then we have the next stage, which is ages 9 through 13, orientation to social valuation. The concepts of social class start to create awareness of self and situation. So individuals start developing preferences for level of work. Here, income, status, and effort. So maybe they don't want to be a garbage man anymore because it doesn't make enough money. They want to become a rock star. They want that status. Or maybe they don't want to be a doctor. Or maybe they realize the doctor has too much effort, so they don't want to be. And then we move on to the next stage. Beginning at age 14 and going to about 18, we have orientation to internal and unique self. So we have introspective thinking encourages greater self-awareness and perception of others. They get a better idea of their career aspirations concerning their self, their gender, and their social class, and they replace ideal aspirations with more realistic ones. So maybe they realize they can't really be a rock star and they grew out of that. Maybe they don't, but they tend to think more realistically of what they are good at. Okay, so now we move on to the next element of this developmental theory called compromise. And so when individuals start getting ready for work, they choose occupations that are compatible with what's called their social space, where they feel they belong, their intellectual level, and their sex typing. So compromising is the process of abandoning the most preferred alternatives. Their career decisions are based primarily on generalizations made of cognitive maps of jobs. This is also called career stereotypes. And being kids and based on information, this can be very limited information. Their cognitive maps can be missing a lot. So each person has a unique map of a career, but there are common methods of evaluating similarities and differences in careers. There are sex typing, level of work, or prestige, and the field of work. The goal with compromise is to create some kind of boundaries or tolerable limits of acceptable jobs after the last step of circumscription. So the idea of compromise is a little contradictory to aspirations, but Gottfredson's idea was that compromise is the process of just adjusting aspirations to accommodate external reality, so bringing it down a notch. She believes that this is where individuals often discover they will be unable to implement their preferred choices. What's also called reality attention getters or local availability of educational programs and employment, hiring practices of particular companies. Maybe they don't tend to hire females, or there can be some just unfair hiring practices, or family obligations. Maybe you just can't do what you want to do based on what you gotta do. Settle for a good choice, not the best possible one. Again, not very aspirational, but it's negotiation. So what she found was compromise choices, what individuals tend to have. Individuals will not compromise their field of interest over prestige or sex type when there are small trade-offs. They will not compromise prestige over sex type when there are moderate trade-offs. They will choose prestige or sex type over interest when there are major trade-offs. And overall, individuals are less willing to compromise job level and sex type because these factors are closely related to self-concept and social identity. Alright, so there are a lot of elements of this theory that are outdated. Mind you, it started in 1981. But Gottfredson continued researching, and she was greatly influenced by genetic studies, especially genetic family studies, that found genes and environment drive human experiences, which in turn develop individual traits. So, and these studies also show many personality traits are moderately heritable. People are active participants in creating self-directed experiences, meaning their behavior. And how individuals perceive and interpret experiences is unique to individuals. So their genetic makeup can determine their experiences. So with this in mind, her career development theory becomes a nature-nurture partnership. Genetics influence a person to create a life that is based on one's genetic makeup. So Gottfredson's theory has had some studies with it, and some have confirmed some of her information, and some have contradicted it. A lot more research needs to be done. One of the issues was that she previously stated that a social space was concluded by age 13, but a study was done by Lung, Connolly, and Shiel that said this social space increased in size from ages 8 through 17. This can lead to so many inferences, and this also shows a possibility that students widen their range of career exploration during high school and even earlier. So, as far as practical applications, a counselor helps individuals, typically in the high school range, by providing information on compatibility and accessibility. So, this can include aptitude, requirements of occupations, and assessments of aptitudes of individuals, showing common occupational clusters to find a range of acceptable choices, to help discern their perceptions and misconceptions of sex type and prestige of careers, to make sure they have the right information and making their choices, to find out characteristics of occupations, and to find availability of training. The idea is to bring individuals to a realm of constructive realism, get their best choices, and guide them to one best choice with alternatives. So this theory does have some things to be concerned about, cultural considerations. Gottfredson herself suggests more attention needs to be given to the career development of individuals in their younger ages. That can be difficult trying to talk to somebody in the concrete age as far as what they want to be. Circumscription and compromise need further research to determine how to minimize their limiting effects on career choice. More research needs to be performed on the impact and use with diverse clients, various populations. I know she mentioned the dominant society, and to make that broad generalization can be concerning. This theory is not beneficial for someone who already has a career or is an adult, although one can argue if they haven't reached that last developmental stage, they could still be stuck there. And ultimately, the theory itself does not explain how we come to understand our sex types and gender norms. So, what she found was compromised choices, what individuals tend to have. Individuals will not compromise their field of interest over prestige or sex type when there are small trade offs. They will not compromise prestige over sex type when there are moderate trade offs. They will choose prestige or sex type over interest when there are major trade offs. And overall, individuals are less willing to compromise job level and sex type because these factors are closely related to self concept and social identity. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great evening.